Welcome back to the Goalie Corner presented by One Stop Goaltending. I'm Coach Mike. Today we got Kevin Linker back on to help us figure out blockers, the differences between the different brands, as well as what we can be expecting on their performance and maybe longevity of the blockers themselves. Kevin, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back again.
No problem. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Why don't we start off the same way we started with the gloves last time, focused on Brian's, right? So let's talk about the highlights, maybe a couple of the drawbacks, and then move on to the next company or the next brand, and then we can compare them all and figure out what's best for what kind of goalie. All right, let's start with Brian's pads then.
All right. Similar to yesterday or similar to our last conversation, same models.
They have
um
Eclipse blocker too.
so they went blocker and glove with that. And then you've got iconic and optic, pretty similar between the three, obviously different graphics. I believe the iconic is a little more curved up at the top, so designed to kind of knock those rebounds down a little bit more. Optic has a little bit of a sharper shape to it, helped design to elevate that puck off of rebounds.
So me being old, as you pointed out several times last episode, I always kind of think back to Vaughn because it was Vaughn Reebok. Reebok was really flat, Vaughn was really curved, right? So the curve helps get rebounds up and away, or is it the flat that helps get rebounds up and away?
I would say curved is going to help knock pucks down a little bit more because if you think about like if a puck's hitting it right on that seam,
Right.
obviously instead of having that little bit of a ascension angle to it, it's a little bit pre-curved, so it's going to knock pucks more down, or at a little bit of a flatter level. That straighter board that probably doesn't have as defined of a curve to it is gonna be designed to kind of elevate pucks off of the rebound.
Do you really know is a big difference?
No,
That okay. So
no.
it's maybe a little bit markety.
I would say so. Man, we're gonna fly through blockers compared to gloves.
Oh yeah. Now might be a dumb question. Do you block are blockers kind of like leg pads where some absorb more impact and some explode rebounds out?
Definitely. Amongst like different companies, it's relatively the same. CCM, they're gonna claim that maybe the foam's a little bit stiffer in the axis compared to the E-Flex, and it might last for a little bit longer, but ultimately it's gonna soften up the same. Um, every brand really, with the exception of Bauer, I would say who's throwing that curve composite inside of the blocker board, they're all gonna soften up over time. So
Got
they might have that existing pop once you get it fresh off the shelf, but probably after, I would say, a year's of use, you're definitely not getting that same explosion back off the blocker as when you first got it.
gotcha.
It's an interesting conversation because I was actually talking to someone today about blockers, and my next set I'm probably going to end up in a CCM or a True, but I'm going to purposely go out and outsource a blocker board from Bauer to
Oh,
and throw that inside of that blocker to give it that extra pop.
interesting. So you like the pop off the blocker, but you like the feel of the CCM or True glove,
Yeah,
like the
that's it.
mitt. Interesting. I didn't know that was really a thing. Do they still come with zippers on top so you can change that pad out, or is it all stitched in?
Majority of them still have a zipper.
Nice.
Bauer's one of the only ones I think that doesn't. Bauer and Brian's, I want to say.
Yeah, okay. The Eclipse, is that anything special?
Not really. I didn't really notice when I threw it on, I didn't really notice a massive difference.
Okay.
Kind of, I would say it fits in between like that optic. It's its unique own board shape, but again, like
It's
in
the same sort of padding on the inside, right? It's going to break down eventually.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. And we're going to jump over to Vaughn. One thing that I wanted to bring up between Vaughn and Brian's was I don't know if they still do it, but with the velocity line, it used to be off-centered on your hand, so it was already angled to the corner for easier rebounds. Is
Yeah,
that still a thing for those two companies?
no.
Not really
I would
noticeable.
say if we're gonna talk Vaughn, I would say like the biggest difference that you're gonna find goes between their pro carbon, so their pro level stuff that's made in Canada here versus what you're gonna get out of a offshore pro. Because so the pro carbon has a full sheet of carbon throughout the face of the blocker. So that's gonna give it a little bit more pop off of the face.
Yeah,
Little bit more longevity, obviously built in Canada. And then from that durability aspect, it's designed to hold up a lot longer. I know, like, even if I think about gear I've worn in the past, like offshore Vaughn stuff, after a little bit, blocker tends to, I would say, like, crack. The plastic will crack at the
yeah,
top. Essentially, you can take your blocker and make it an accordion.
I've
Uh,
done that.
yeah, with the Pro Carbon, that's what it's really designed to do. That's like the biggest difference between Vaughn, their Pro Carbon and their Pro.
Okay. And I'm guessing Pro Carbon isn't stock.
Pro Carbon, they do make like a stock all white. They make any of the stock colors.
Okay.
Yeah. The
Okay.
big difference is it's made in Canada, and it's
Yeah.
like what guys in the NHL are wearing versus offshore made overseas.
Right. And you can get that Pro Carbon for both the SLR and the V10.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And then what's the biggest difference between those two models, the SLR and the V10?
Again, like curvedness up top. The SLR is a little bit of that sharper curve up at the top. I find velocity tends to be a little bit flatter. Big difference I generally find is actually like when you go to grab a stick, just the difference there, just with the protection on the inside of the hand. It's
Which one do
something,
you like more? The velocity is like more open.
yeah, I would say the velocity is a little more open. I tend to prefer that. I played the puck a ton, so like just easier to slide in and out.
Yeah, the downside is way back in the day when it was really open, the puck would ramp up. You don't really see that very often anymore, but then you can buy one of those blocks that go on your paddle for that extra little bit of protection.
Yeah, paddle wedge, block, any of those.
Would you say the SLR might be a little bit more on the blocking style goaltender then because it limits what your stick can do to get out and play the puck?
You could kind of classify it as that, I guess, if you want to. Like we're gonna talk about pads later on in another episode, but like SLR generally does tend to be marketed a little bit more towards those blocking style goalies. Velocity tends to be a little bit softer.
Gotcha. Perfect. Super easy. Yeah, we're zipping through blocker. DCM used to be Bauer. I remember them. Their difference mainly way back in the day was the hand placement in on the actual pad, right? So the Vaughn and the Brian, you had center, the palm in the center, and it was just rotated a little bit. Reeboks, you could off center your hand, so there's more low blocker padding underneath your hand, or you could center. Is that still an option, and is that popular at all?
So still an option, yes, through custom. Otherwise, everything's gone to pretty much the exact same hand.
Right.
I
And that
know,
would be in the center probably.
yeah, it's more centered. I know, like it's such a bad saying, like blocker's a blocker because like there are like different technicalities and the different padding when it comes to how curved it is or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but everything's centered,
Yeah.
same fours all throughout.
It's a hard piece of equipment to truly differentiate. Oh, wow. I tried to use a big word there. It's a hard product to try to absolutely redesign and reinvent,
Yeah.
right?
No,
Because I feel like why not just take the same sort of technology you have in the leg pad and put it on the hand?
yeah, no, like Bauer, I mean, we can jump quickly there. They're actually a little bit different in that regard. So Supreme, so your new Shadow line that's coming out this year, any mock ultrasonic. That is a thicker board. So it's a little bit heavier than like a Hyperlight or that you'll find in the Vapor, but it's a consistent board width all throughout. And that's designed to kind of keep that pop, that longevity a little bit longer. Whereas they're Vapor, so what do you think? Like 2X, Hyperlight, Hyperlight 2, it does taper off a little bit. It's obviously a weight reduced blocker, so still has the same protection, same durability, a little bit lighter, and just not as much foam throughout.
So you're saying the thicker board maintains that width or that thickness from top to bottom?
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
I
And like
wish
how much thicker is it really?
I would say like half an inch,
Oh,
half to 3/4 of an inch.
okay.
When you pick the two up, you can tell there's definitely a substantial difference between weight.
Right. Interesting. Quickly going back to CCM, E-Flex and Axis.
Yep.
Axis is probably going to be, we can just air quote, their blocky style, more of a pop, get the pucks up and away from you.
Yeah. This goes like across the board. This is the year of generally like more blocky style, a little bit stiffer gear.
Right.
So Axis falls into that category. Shadow from Bauer, obviously, True Hazardous,
Right. And
everything.
then their E-Flexes knock the pucks down, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Gotcha. Perfect. All right. Jumping all the way back down to true. So they got the hazardous line and the catalyst line, right?
Mhm.
Or isn't that all changing again?
Nope, you're good. Hazardous PX4, Catalyst PX3.
Perfect. All right. Biggest differences, I'm sure it's all the same, just every company's got their own two words for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to pull something up here because I was talking about this with a coworker the other day, and I want to make sure I get this right. So true, their hazardous blocker is being branded as a 615. I don't know, I think they're throwing random numbers at the wall here and seeing what sticks.
What would 615 mean?
So 615, if I'm looking at the pictures, it just seems like the sidewall is a little bit more drawn out, a little bit thicker and extends more throughout. Um, Whereas that 595, the cuff is a little bit shorter on it.
And the catalyst would be the 595.
Yeah. Catalyst is stock 595. I know it's going to be tough. I'm going to send you this picture
Yeah.
and you can pop it in here.
So would the other companies have would they all be 595 then?
Probably closest to, yeah. So in the picture that I just sent you, the top one's the 615. So you can see how the sidewall actually extends all throughout to the base of the blocker. Whereas with the catalyst or the 595, it gets cut off probably an inch or so below the bottom of the blocker.
So that would just add more padding. Now, wouldn't blockers also fall under some sort of measurement as well? Like, wouldn't that be bigger?
Sidewall, it doesn't matter too much to the best of my knowledge.
I almost wonder if because they're going longer with the sidewall, are they making that internal rotation that Vaughn used to do on the velocity blockers now? They're reinventing it
Yeah.
to give you
Yeah,
more
like
protection on the sides, right?
I've thrown on like a 615 and a 595. You could tell me I'm wearing the same blocker and I'd fully believe you.
You don't think that extra little bit would get caught in the chest protector flaps?
So I didn't throw it on with a chest protector. That could be the one downside to it that I see.
Yeah. Is this
But
just going to be on the catalyst or is this going to be on both?
so the 615 is just going to be hazardous, and then 595 will just be catalyst for this year.
Gotcha. Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. This is the first time we've seen a 615 blocker at the retail level in a little bit.
Let's go U11, maybe U13, beginner style goalie.
Yep.
What's the blocker besides comfort, what's the go-to blocker that you would recommend to help the goalie out?
I would say probably Bauer X5 Pro.
Our X5 Pro.
Yeah, so it like falls into that vapor line of a little bit thinner. So a little bit of weight reduction, a little bit easier to move. Um, I love the cuff design on the backhand of it. It's almost like a half piece cuff.
Okay.
Uh, so designed to give you a little bit more flex throughout your hand, a little bit easier to get those hands projected forwards out in front of you. So
If
that,
you if
oh,
you're, let's say, a parent
yeah,
buying a set of pads for or blocker, maybe we can toss in a glove there too, but U15 age goalie, you get pads once every 2 years, maybe 3 years. What's the longevity brand or blocker you're going to go with?
longevity purposes, I'd probably go true.
Interesting.
Mainly just because as much as it's made overseas, it's being made overseas in what was the old CCM factories.
Well,
And I mean, like,
they're new,
I
but they're not inexperienced. Interesting. And longevity because like the stitching holds up better or the padding internally is better.
I haven't seen too many blockers, honestly, like at that junior and intermediate level get worked so hard that the actual internals are getting destroyed.
Gotcha.
Normally, normally if I see anything, it's usually a palm. Like
Right.
it's wearing for a palm.
Gotcha. Now, one more question here. Let's see if I can stump you. I think I stumped myself by just saying that. Oh, here's a good one. If you could make a change to a blocker to enhance its performance or ability to perform for the goalie, what would it be?
Oh,
Take your time because I'll cut out all the thinking time.
well, I think like just right off the top of my head, like we're no longer in a day where everyone's trying to get rebounds close to them and hold on to it, right? So everyone's wanting that rebound to explode as far away as possible. I would say like if I could change one thing, it's probably like more foam throughout the face or more carbon throughout the face. I really do think Vaughn's onto something here with like their carbon sheeting through the face of the blocker just for that extended pop. So I think like if other brands that are falling behind, like Bauer will take them out of it because they've got their curved composite in it, which is just as good. But like if a Warrior or a CCM, like if you can find a way to add carbon type material to that face to make that blocker explode a little bit more, like that would probably be my number one thing.
So everyone else but Vaughn's Pro Carbon line, that internal hard piece, is that like just plexiglass or plastic?
Yeah, it's like a hardened form of Lexan, like a thick plastic.
Right. And the weak point's probably right in the middle.
Yes. Or
Exactly.
like right where it bends.
Right.
And that's why you see like if you ever see lacing through that top cuff, that's what that lacing's holding in.
The binding itself kind of thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I think that's all we needed to do for blockers. If you have any other questions, you can find Kevin. Contact stuff down below and his store. Is it called the Padded Room
Yeah,
or is it Source for Sports London?
our goalie specific division is called the Padded Room. We can probably find us through Instagram on that. SFS Padded Room on Instagram. Otherwise, yeah, London Source for Sports.
Very helpful, open for all questions. Um, yeah, thanks for coming on again.
No worries. Thanks for having me back.
See you next week.